We like to think following the law brings blessings. Paul says differently, though, when he says following the law brings a curse.
So the curse of the law, then, Paul talks about in chapter 3, 10 through 13. Following the law, believe it or not, brings with it a curse. Paul writes, "As many as are, exist, or live by of the works of the law are under a curse. For it is written, Cursed is everyone who does not persevere in or observe and obey all things written in the book of the law to do them. Since it is clear that no one is being justified before God in the law, since the just will live by faith. Moreover, the law is not of faith. Indeed, the man who does these things will live in them. Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law, having become a curse for us. For it is written, Cursed is everyone who is hanged upon a tree." Paul is talking about that obedience to the law brings with it a curse. We commonly believe that following the law brings with it blessing, but following the law leaves us in a conundrum. For example, when the law says, "Thou shalt not kill," is there ever an exception to this rule? Just war theory, people will say so. What happens if you have to kill someone in order to stop the person from harming your neighbor or your family? Always a loophole you're trying to find in the law.
So Jesus actually found himself under the curse of the law. He followed the golden rule by doling out God's mercy and forgiveness to those who were breaking the law, sinners. He broke the law as he followed the law. For example, he let his disciples work on the Sabbath because they were hungry. That was actually breaking the Jewish law. He kept company with sinners, touched the unclean. These are all things that were forbidden under Jewish law, but Jesus did them because he was obeying the golden rule. In so doing, Jesus became a curse by breaking the law for the sake of others. This was an action we could not tolerate, and so we killed him. In order to break the curse of the law, Christ actually died because of the law. The law functioned the way it was supposed to function. Christ became a curse by becoming subject to our attempts to keep the law, to do the right thing. We deemed him unjust and cursed because of breaking the law, and so we hung him on a tree. Were we justified in doing that? Were we justified in killing Christ? Yes. The law did its proper work. He broke the law.
He did break God's law. And what do you do with someone who claims to be God? You have to kill him. The way I do it in modern examples is I say, if someone is a medical practitioner and they come in and there's a way that they're working with bodily fluids and they don't put gloves on, do you allow that to remain the practice? No. And if they don't listen, you say you can't do this anymore. Jesus is going about touching the unclean. What could happen if he keeps touching the unclean? It could spread. You got to stop this. He goes about starting breaking the traditions, okay? The standards, the norms of society. Tax collectors, prostitutes, all. You can't let that happen because chaos will reign. So you had to stop him. What happens is, yes, you crucified Christ because he was unfair in his dealings with people. Now, not only is it that he was under the gun, you are now under the gun because you killed. You broke the law. This is how God traps us. It is God's alien work. God actually ties us up and traps us in our attempts to fulfill the law. Was it right for us to crucify a man who was simply trying to help his neighbor? So your attempt to make the law hold was actually also breaking the law. In doing so, the law becomes futile in determining our righteousness, which gives a loophole now to the Gentiles. In other words, it is not the law that gives you righteousness. It is not what you do. That's why we talked about the active versus passive. It is faith that makes us righteous. Christ became a curse in order to set us free. To claim our identity in the law removes the freedom.